She was just a black diner waitress trying to survive. When bullies made her cry, her son ran to a biker gang for help. What she didn't know, the gang leader owed his life to her late husband, and he was about to change everything. The coffee pot shattered against the floor, spraying glass and hot liquid across Aisha Johnson's worn sneakers. She didn't flinch. She couldn't afford to. "Look at that, boys! Butterfingers can't even hold a pot!" The man's voice boomed through the near-empty diner, his laughter crude and sharp. His two friends joined in, their faces red from whiskey and meanness. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in Pine Ridge, Georgia, and Aisha Johnson was trying not to cry in front of her 8-year-old son. "I'll get him up, sweetheart," she said quietly to Jamal, who sat frozen in booth 7, his colored pencils scattered across the table. His superhero drawing, Captain Courage, saving people from a burning building, lay abandoned, the edges curling from the diner's humid air. The 3 truckers had stumbled in 40 minutes ago, drunk and looking for trouble. Aisha had served them coffee, eggs, and toast without complaint. She always did. Single mothers working the graveyard shift at Ray's diner didn't get to complain. "Hey, diner trash." The ringleader, a massive man with a snake tattoo crawling up his neck, slammed his fist on the counter. "We're talking to you." Aisha turned slowly, her hands shaking as she gripped the mop handle. "Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voices. There are what? Other customers?" Snake Tattoo looked around the empty diner and laughed. "Don't see nobody else stupid enough to eat in this dump." His friend, skinny with a crooked nose, snatched Jamal's drawing from the table as he passed. "What's this? Your kid think he's an artist or something?" "Please give that back," Aisha said, her voice tight. "Please give that back," the man mimicked in a high-pitched whine. He held the drawing up to the light. "This is garbage. Kid can't even color inside the lines." Jamal's eyes filled with tears. Something broke inside Aisha. Not loudly. It was quiet like ice cracking on a frozen lake. She stepped forward. "Give my son his drawing back." Now the 3rd trucker, older with gray stubble and mean little eyes, stood up. He was the biggest of them all. "Or what? Honey, you going to call the cops?" "Go ahead. We'll be gone before they show up to this nowhere town." He shoved past her, knocking her shoulder hard enough that she stumbled against the counter. Her nameplate, Aisha J. 3 Years Service, clattered to the floor. The gray-stubbled man picked it up, read it, and tossed it in the trash. 3 years in this dump? That's just sad. They laughed, all 3 of them, heads thrown back, filling the diner with their cruelty. Aisha's vision blurred. "Not here. Not in front of Jamal." She bit the inside of her cheek hard enough to taste copper. "Mama." Jamal's voice was small and scared. She turned to him, trying to smile, but her lips wouldn't cooperate. A single tear rolled down her cheek before she could stop it. That's when Jamal's chair scraped back. "Jamal, stay there," Aisha said, but her voice came out broken. The boy was already moving. He snatched his drawing from the skinny trucker's hand and ran. Not toward his mother, but toward the door. "Jamal!" Aisha called. But he was gone. The bell above the door chiming as he disappeared into the August night. Let him go," Snake Tattoo said, sitting back down. "Kid's probably embarrassed his mama's such a—" Aisha was already running. She grabbed her thin jacket from behind the counter and pushed through the door, the humid Georgia air hitting her like a fist. Cicadas buzzed under the parking lot lights, and her breath came out in heavy puffs. "Jamal!" she screamed. "Jamal, come back!" But her son was fast when he was scared, and the darkness swallowed him whole. Jamal ran until his lungs burned and his tears soaked his cheeks. His mama was crying. His mama who never cried, who sang while she cooked mac and cheese, who tucked him in every night, even when she worked double shifts. Those men made her cry. He didn't know where he was running. Away from the diner, away from the laughing. His feet slipped on patches of gravel, and his thin jacket did nothing against the sticky heat. But he kept going until he saw it. A low building with a neon sign buzzing in the darkness. Iron Saints MC. Through the frosted windows, Jamal could see shapes moving. Big shapes. People with leather jackets and loud voices. The parking lot was full of motorcycles, chrome gleaming under the lights. His daddy used to have a motorcycle before the war took him away. Jamal walked up to the heavy wooden door, his small hand trembling as he raised it. He knocked once, twice. The third time, he pounded with both fists, his crying turning into hiccuping sobs. The door swung open. A man stood there, tall enough that Jamal had to crane his neck back to see his face. Gray hair pulled into a ponytail, beard shot through with white, eyes the color of a summer storm, cold and distant. Scars ran across his knuckles, and a leather vest covered his broad chest. Patches and pins telling stories Jamal didn't understand. Behind him, the bar went quiet. "Kid," the man's voice was rough like gravel under tires. "What are you doing out here? Where are your parents?" Jamal's words came out in a rush, broken by sobs. "They bully my mama at the diner. They pushed her and laughed at her and she's crying. She never cries. Please, please! She's crying." The big man stared down at him, something flickering behind those cold eyes. "Please," Jamal whispered. "My mama needs help." For a long moment, nothing happened. The cicadas screamed. Humidity hung thick. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Then the man crouched down, bringing himself to Jamal's eye level. His voice, when he spoke, was softer than Jamal expected. "Where?" Jamal pointed back toward the main road. "Ray's Diner, the one with the blue sign." The big man stood and looked over his shoulder. "Crew, get your bikes." The quiet inside the bar erupted into motion. Chains rattled, boots thundered, engines roared to life outside, one after another, a symphony of power and purpose. The big man looked down at Jamal one more time. "Stay here. We'll bring your mama back." "No," Jamal said, surprising himself with a firmness in his voice. "I'm coming. She's my mama." Something almost like a smile touched the corner of the man's mouth. "All right, little man, hold on tight. End of section 1. 994 words. The motorcycle vibrated beneath Jamal like a living thing, all thunder and power. He clutched Marcus's leather jacket, his small fingers digging into the worn material as they flew down the highway. Behind them, a dozen more bikes roared in formation, their headlights cutting through the humid darkness like a pack of wolves on the hunt. Jamal had never felt anything like this. The fear was still there, tight in his chest, but something else too. Something that felt like hope. 3 minutes, that's all it took to reach Ray's Diner. Marcus pulled into the parking lot first, his bike's engine dropping to a low growl. The others followed, fanning out in a semicircle, chrome and steel gleaming under the diner's buzzing neon sign. The sound was everywhere, deep, rumbling, shaking the windows. Inside the diner, Aisha was on her knees, picking up broken glass with trembling hands. The truckers sat at the counter, passing a flask between them, their laughter echoing off the walls. "You hear something?" the skinny one said, turning toward the window. That's when the engines cut off one by one until the silence was somehow louder than the noise had been. "What the hell?" Snake Tattoo stood up, squinting through the window at the wall of bikers outside. Aisha looked up from the floor, confusion crossing her tear-stained face. Through the glass, she saw him. Jamal climbing off the back of a massive motorcycle. A giant of a man helping him down. Her heart stopped. Jamal. The diner door swung open with enough force to make the bell clang violently against the frame. Marcus walked in first, 6'4", of solid muscle and bad intentions, his boots heavy on the checkered floor. Behind him came 7 more Iron Saints. Men and women who looked like they'd seen the worst the world had to offer, and decided to stare it down. They didn't say a word. They didn't have to. The gray-stubbled trucker took a step back, his bravado evaporating. "Look, we don't want any trouble." "Funny," Marcus said, his voice low and controlled. Neither did she. He moved like a predator. Smooth, deliberate, terrifying. 3 long strides and he was across the diner. His hand shot out, grabbing Snake Tattoo by the collar and lifting him half off his stool. "Hey, you can't," the man started. But the words died when he met Marcus's eyes. Those summer storm eyes that had seen men die, that had pulled triggers and dug graves and buried things that couldn't be forgiven. Marcus slammed the trucker against the counter, not hard enough to break anything, but hard enough to make a point. Coffee cups rattled. The register drawer popped open an inch. "You think you're tough?" Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper, but everyone heard it, pushing around a woman trying to feed her kid, making an 8-year-old cry. "We were just joking, man. Just having some fun." Fun. Marcus repeated the word like it tasted rotten. He glanced over at Aisha, who stood frozen by the broken glass, her hand over her mouth, then down at Jamal, who had come to stand beside a female biker with silver hair and kind eyes. Marcus's grip tightened on the trucker's collar. "Apologize to the lady." "What?" "You heard me. Apologize. Now." Snake Tattoo's face went from red to pale. His friend stood up, but 2 of the Iron Saints moved to block their path. Not threatening, just present, immovable as mountains. I'm sorry," the trucker stammered, looking at Aisha. "We shouldn't have." "I'm sorry, ma'am." "Louder," Marcus said. "I'm sorry," the man's voice cracked. "I'm really sorry. We were drunk and stupid." "And I'm sorry." Marcus held him there for another heartbeat, then released him. The truckers stumbled backward, nearly falling. "All of you," Marcus said, turning to the other 2. "Apologize." They did frantically, tripping over their words, pulling out their wallets, throwing bills on the counter. 20s, 50s, more money than a meal cost. More money than Aisha made in 3 days. "We're going. We're leaving. We're sorry." "We go," Marcus said. They went. The door slammed behind them, and through the window, everyone watched them pile into their truck and peel out of the parking lot, taillights disappearing into the night. The diner was silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the tick of the clock. Aisha stood there shaking, her arms wrapped around herself. "Who? Who are you people?" Marcus turned to face her. Up close, she could see the scars on his face. Old knife wounds, burn marks, the map of a hard life. But his eyes, when they met hers, weren't cruel. They were tired, sad, ancient. Before he could answer, Jamal broke free from the silver-haired biker and ran to his mother, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Mama, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" Aisha dropped to her knees, pulling her son into a fierce hug, her tears coming freely now. "Oh, baby, you shouldn't have run off like that. You scared me to death. I had to get help," Jamal said into her shoulder. "They made you cry." Over Jamal's head, Aisha looked up at Marcus. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to... Thank you." Marcus's jaw tightened. He glanced at Jamal, then back at Aisha. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Pain? It was gone before she could identify it. "He asked for help," Marcus said simply, nodding toward Jamal. "I answered." "But why?" You don't even know us. Maybe not. Marcus turned toward the door, his crew following his lead. But your boy's got more courage than most grown men I know. Kid like that deserves a mama who doesn't have to take garbage from people who aren't worth the dirt on her shoes. He paused at the door, looking back one more time. Those men won't bother you again. You got the word of the Iron Saints on that. Wait, Aisha called out. What's your name? Marcus, he said. Then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. The engines roared back to life, and the Iron Saints disappeared into the night as suddenly as they'd arrived, leaving behind only the smell of leather and motor oil and the pile of cash on the counter. Aisha held Jamal close, her mind spinning. In 8 years of struggling, of working herself to exhaustion, of facing the world alone, no one had ever stood up for her like that. No one had ever made her feel like she mattered. Who was that man, Mama? Jamal asked quietly. Aisha wiped her eyes and looked at the money on the counter. $400? Maybe more. I don't know, sweetheart, she said. I honestly don't know. End of section 2. 996 words. Aisha stood in the empty diner for a long moment, holding Jamal close, staring at the cash on the counter. The clock above the register ticked past midnight. Her shift ended at 2 a.m., but something told her she needed to do this now. Stay here, baby, she said, kissing Jamal's forehead. I'll be right back. She grabbed the money, stuffed it in her apron pocket, and pushed through the door into the humid night. The parking lot was empty except for 2 motorcycles still idling near the road. Marcus and a silver-haired woman who'd stayed with Jamal. Aisha ran, her breath forming clouds in the sticky air. Wait. Please, wait. Marcus turned, his hand on the throttle. The silver-haired woman, her vest patch reading silver, gave him a knowing look and kicked her bike into gear. I'll see you back at the clubhouse, boss, she roared off, leaving them alone under the flickering diner sign. Aisha stopped a few feet from his bike, suddenly aware of how she must look. Coffee-stained uniform, red eyes, hair falling out of its ponytail. I can't take this, she said, pulling the cash from her pocket. It's too much. They left it. Not me. Marcus's voice was flat, giving nothing away. But you made them. Aisha stopped, shaking her head. I don't even know how to process what just happened. People don't just help. Not like that. Not in my experience. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. Maybe. Aisha stepped closer. The money clutched in her hand. Please, at least let me give you something. Gas money. A meal. I can make you something before my shift ends. It's the least I can do. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Those men, her voice cracked. They could have done worse. And Jamal, God, he could have gotten hurt running out into the night. You brought him back safe. You. She wiped her eyes roughly. You made me feel like I wasn't alone, like someone cared if I lived or died. Do you have any idea how long it's been since I felt that way? The words hung in the humid air between them. Marcus shifted on his bike, and for the first time, Aisha saw something other than granite in his expression. Something almost like pain. Your husband? He said quietly. Where is he? Aisha's face fell. Her hand moved instinctively to her wallet in her back pocket, pulling it out with trembling fingers. He's gone. 6 years now. She opened the worn leather, and there, behind a plastic sleeve, was a photograph. Sergeant Darius Johnson in his dress uniform, American flag in the background, that smile that had made her fall in love with him when they were both 19. His eyes bright with hope and patriotism and all the things the war would eventually take from him. Afghanistan, Aisha said softly, holding the wallet so Marcus could see it. They said he saved 3 men before. She couldn't finish the sentence. She never could. Marcus's face went white. His hand gripped the handlebar so hard his knuckles turned bone pale. Aisha didn't notice. She was lost in the memory, her thumb tracing the edge of the photo through the plastic. His name was Darius. Darius, he was the best man I ever knew. We were supposed to grow old together, you know? Supposed to watch Jamal graduate, get married, have grandkids. But he died a hero, they said. Like that's supposed to make it hurt less. Darius Johnson. Marcus's voice came out strangled. You knew him? Aisha looked up sharply, hope flaring in her eyes. Did you serve with him? Marcus's mind was spinning, tumbling backward through time. Afghanistan, 2016. The convoy, the explosion, fire and smoke and screaming. His leg trapped under twisted metal, flames crawling closer. The certainty that he was going to die in that burning Humvee, alone and forgotten. Then hands grabbing him, a voice yelling, I got you, brother, I got you. A face covered in soot and blood. Sergeant Darius Johnson, dragging him out with impossible strength, pulling him clear just seconds before the fuel tank exploded. Stay with me, Johnson had screamed, slapping his face. You don't get to die today. You hear me? You don't get to die. Marcus had lived 3 months in a German hospital, 6 surgeries, rehab that felt like torture. He'd come home broken and bitter, eventually finding his way to the Iron Saints, building a new life from the ashes of the old one. But Darius Johnson, the man who'd saved him, hadn't come home at all. And this woman, this tired, beautiful woman with coffee stains on her uniform and tears in her eyes, was his widow. Did you know him? Aisha asked again, her voice desperate. Please, no one ever wants to talk about him. His unit scattered after. I just want to know he mattered, that someone remembers. Marcus's throat felt like it was closing. He should tell her. Should say the words, your husband saved my life. I'm here because of him. I owe him everything. But when he opened his mouth, what came out was, I knew of him. Good soldier. The men respected him. It was the truth, just not all of it. Aisha's face lit up despite her tears. Really? You really knew about him? Yeah, Marcus's voice was rough. He was a good man. The best. Aisha clutched the wallet to her chest. Thank you for telling me that. You have no idea what it means. But Marcus did know. He knew exactly what it meant to hear that someone you loved had mattered, had made a difference. He'd spent years wishing someone had told him that about his own family before they were gone. Keep the money, he said, starting his engine. The bike roared to life beneath him. Buy your kids something. Get yourself something that doesn't have coffee stains on it. Aisha laughed through her tears. An actual laugh. I don't even know your real name. Marcus can't be what your mother called you. He looked at her one more time, memorizing her face. Darius Johnson's wife, the woman his brother in arms had died, leaving behind. Marcus, he said. Marcus Webb. Thank you, Marcus, Aisha said softly, for everything. He nodded once, then kicked the bike into gear and drove away, his hands shaking on the handlebars. Behind him, Aisha stood in the empty parking lot, holding her dead husband's photo and wondering why the big biker's eyes had looked so haunted when he'd seen Darius's face. End of section 3. 1,000 words. Aisha arrived at the diner at 4 p.m. the next day, Jamal in tow because the babysitter had canceled. Her evening shift started at 5, but she wanted to get there early, maybe grab a meal for Jamal before the dinner rush. The moment she walked through the door, she knew something was wrong. Ray Thompson, the owner, sat at the counter with his arms crossed. He was a portly man in his 60s, balding with a permanent scowl that deepened when he saw her. Aisha, office now. Her stomach dropped. Ray, I can explain about last night. Office. She turned to Jamal. Baby, sit right here and color. Okay, I'll be right back. She handed him his backpack with the coloring books and pencils. Ray's office was barely bigger than a closet, smelling of stale cigarettes and old coffee. He didn't offer her a seat. Instead, he pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. It was a video, shaky, filmed through the diner window. The Iron Saints arriving. Marcus grabbing the trucker. The confrontation. The caption read, "Biker gang terrorizes local diner." Aisha's blood ran cold. That's not what happened. Those men were harassing me. They... 347 shares. Ray interrupted, his voice tight. "My phone's been ringing off the hook all day. You know what people are saying? That Ray's diner isn't safe. That biker gangs hang out here. That good folks should eat somewhere else. Ray, please. Those men helped me. You brought them here." Ray's face turned red. "You caused a scene that scared away paying customers. I had 2 families cancel their reservations for tonight because they saw this video. 2 families. I didn't bring them. My son ran to get help because those drunk truckers were pushing me around. And I don't care about your excuses." Ray pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. "This is your final paycheck, minus the cost of the broken coffee pot. You're done." The words hit her like a physical blow. "What?" "You're fired, Aisha. Effective immediately." "You can't, Ray. I've worked here for 3 years. I've never missed a shift, never complained. I've covered for other people." "And you brought a biker gang to my establishment." Ray's voice was cold. "I've got a business to protect. I can't have this kind of publicity." Aisha's eyes burned. "I have a son to feed. This job is all I have. Should have thought about that before you started drama with customers. They weren't customers. They were bullies. They threw things at me. They mocked my son." "Goodbye, Aisha." She stood there frozen, the envelope in her shaking hands. Through the office door, she could see Jamal coloring innocently, humming to himself, completely unaware that their lives had just collapsed. "You know what?" Aisha's voice came out steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You're a coward, Ray. Those men terrorized me, and you're punishing me for it. I hope you can live with that." She walked out, grabbed Jamal's hand, and left Ray's diner for the last time. By that evening, the whole town knew. Aisha discovered this when she stopped by the grocery store on Main Street. Mrs. Henderson, who'd always been friendly, suddenly became very interested in the cereal boxes when Aisha walked past. The checkout girl, a high school student Aisha had given free pie to last month, wouldn't meet her eyes. At the pharmacy, Aisha overheard 2 women talking by the vitamin aisle. Heard she was involved with those bikers, dating the leader or something. Poor child growing up with a mother like that. Aisha's face burned. She left without buying Jamal's prescription, even though he was almost out of his asthma medicine. They walked home in the humid night, Jamal sensing his mother's mood and staying quiet. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building at the edge of town. 2 bedrooms, leaky faucet, heat that barely worked. But it was theirs, and Aisha had always kept it clean and warm. Now she stood in the kitchen staring at the bills piled on the counter. Rent due in 2 weeks, electric bill overdue, Jamal's asthma medication, groceries, car insurance. The envelope from Ray held $218. She sank into a chair and put her head in her hands. Across town, Marcus Webb sat on his motorcycle in the shadows of an alley, watching Aisha's building. He'd been there for an hour, ever since Silver had told him what she'd heard at the gas station. The gossip, the video, the firing. His hands gripped the handlebars until they ached. Darius Johnson had saved his life, had pulled him from a burning grave, had given him a future. And now, because Marcus had tried to help Darius's widow, he'd destroyed the little stability she had left. He'd meant to protect her. Instead, he'd made her a target. Silver pulled up beside him on her bike, her silver hair catching the streetlight. "Boss, you can't fix this by staring at her window." "I know." His voice was hollow. "She's got what? 2 weeks before she can't make rent?" "Maybe less." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. I took away her income, her reputation. Dorius died, leaving her with nothing. And I just made it worse. You were trying to help. Doesn't matter what I was trying to do, matters what I did. They sat in silence, watching the lights in Aisha's apartment. Through the window, Marcus could see her moving around, probably putting Jamal to bed, trying to pretend everything was okay. She doesn't even know, Marcus said quietly. Doesn't know I owe her husband my life. Doesn't know I'm the reason she's drowning. Silver was quiet for a moment. So, what are you going to do? Marcus started his engine, the rumble echoing off the alley walls. I don't know yet, but I'm not letting her go down because of me. Darius Johnson didn't save my life so I could ruin his family. He rode off into the night, leaving Silver shaking her head. Back in her apartment, Aisha sat on Jamal's bed, stroking his hair as he drifted to sleep. She told him everything would be okay, that she'd find another job, that they'd be fine. But as she looked around their small apartment, at the stack of bills, at the nearly empty fridge, at her son's peaceful face, she wondered how long she could keep that promise. Tomorrow she'd start job hunting. Tomorrow she'd figure it out. Tonight, she let herself cry in the darkness, wondering why life kept taking everything she tried to hold on to. End of section 4, 993 words. 3 days later, Aisha was carrying 2 bags of groceries up the stairs to her apartment when she heard the truck engine. It was 7:00 p.m., already dark, the streetlights casting long shadows across the parking lot. She'd just spent $40 at the discount store, the last of Ray's final paycheck, on pasta, bread, peanut butter, and the cheapest cuts of meat she could find. Jamal was upstairs with Mrs. Chun from 2B, who'd offered to watch him for free after hearing about the job situation. Aisha heard the truck door slam, then the voices. There she is, the biker queen herself. Her blood went cold. She turned slowly on the second-floor landing and looked down. Snake Tattoo stood in the parking lot with his 2 friends, the same drunk truckers from the diner. But they looked different now. Meaner. Angrier. Snake Tattoo's face was bruised, and the skinny one had a split lip. "We've been looking for you," Snake Tattoo called up, his voice slurred. "Got something to discuss?" Aisha's hands tightened on the grocery bags. "You need to leave. Leave. Leave," the gray-stubbled man laughed bitterly. "You cost me my job, lady. That video. My boss saw it. Fired me for embarrassing the company. 20 years driving truck. Gone because some diner trash ran and hid behind thugs. I didn't make that video. You brought those bikers into our business." Snake Tattoo started up the stairs, his friends following. "Made us look like fools on the internet. My wife left me. Took the kids. Said she married a man, not a coward who gets pushed around by motorcycle gangs." Aisha backed up, her heart pounding. "I'm sorry about your jobs, but you were drunk and cruel and you couldn't handle it yourself, so you sent your biker boyfriend after us." The skinny one spat on the stairs. "What kind of woman does that?" They were on the second-floor landing now, blocking her path to her apartment. Aisha could smell the whiskey on them, could see the rage in their eyes. "My son is upstairs," she said, her voice shaking. "Please, just go." "Your son?" Gray Stubble stepped closer. "The little brat who started all this. Maybe we should have a word with him about you. Won't touch my son." Aisha's voice came out hard as steel, surprising even herself. Snake Tattoo laughed. "Or what? You going to run to your biker friends again? They're not here now, sweetheart." He reached out to grab her arm. That's when the sound reached them. Distant at first, then growing louder. The unmistakable rumble of motorcycle engines, multiple bikes getting closer. The truckers froze. Headlights swept across the parking lot like searchlights cutting through the fog that had settled over the evening. One by one, motorcycles roared into the lot. 6, 7, 8 of them, forming a barrier between the building and the trucker's truck. Marcus Webb was the first one off his bike. He didn't run. He didn't rush. He simply walked toward the building with the steady, inevitable pace of a man who'd made a decision. Silver and 5 others followed, spreading out, their presence filling the space. "Step away from her," Marcus said quietly. He was 20 feet away at the bottom of the stairs, but his voice carried like thunder. "This doesn't concern you," Snake Tattoo said, but his bravado was cracking. "This is between us and her. Wrong." Marcus started up the stairs, each step deliberate. "You came to her home, threatened her child. That concerns me. We just wanted to talk." Marcus reached the landing, and suddenly he was there, towering over all 3 of them in the harsh light of the stairwell. His scars looked deeper, his eyes colder. "You want to blame someone for your problems? Blame the whiskey that made you think harassing a single mother was entertainment. Blame the choices that cost your jobs. But don't you dare blame her. She ruined our lives," Gray Stubble shouted. "No." Marcus's voice dropped even lower. "You ruined your own lives. You think your wives left because of a video? They left because that video showed them who you really are. Bullies, cowards, men who pick on women and children because it makes you feel big." He stepped forward, and all 3 men instinctively backed up against the railing. "You have sons?" Marcus asked quietly. Snake Tattoo nodded reluctantly. "2 boys, 8 and 10. Then walk away before they grow up ashamed to carry your name." The words hung in the air like a verdict. "You think they're going to remember you as a good man?" Marcus continued. "You think when they're older, they're going to be proud that their daddy got drunk and terrorized a widow trying to survive? That's the legacy you want to leave them." Snake Tattoo's face went pale. The fight drained out of him like air from a punctured tire. "We're leaving," he muttered. "Come on, guys. If I see any of you near this building again," Marcus said as they pushed past him down the stairs, "if I hear you've spoken her name, if you so much as breathe in her direction, you'll answer to all of us. And next time, I won't be as understanding. We clear?" "Yeah," Snake Tattoo mumbled. "We're clear." They practically ran to their truck, engines starting, tail lights disappearing into the night. Silence settled over the parking lot. Marcus turned to Aisha, who still stood on the landing, grocery bags clutched in her white-knuckled hands. "You okay?" Aisha stared at him. This man who kept appearing when she needed him most. This stranger who twice now stood between her and harm. And something shifted inside her. She wasn't shaking anymore, wasn't crying. Instead, she straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and walked down 2 steps until she was eye level with him. "How did you know to come?" Her voice was steady. "Sham's been keeping an eye out. Heard those idiots shooting their mouths off at a bar downtown about payback. You've been watching me." It wasn't a question. Marcus didn't deny it. Aisha should have been scared, should have been angry, but all she felt was a strange, fierce gratitude. "Thank you," she said again. "You don't have to thank—" "Yes, I do." Aisha took a breath. "Come upstairs, please. It's the least I can do, and I think we need to talk." Marcus hesitated, something conflicted crossing his face. "Please," Aisha said softer. "I want to understand who you really are and why you keep saving me." After a long moment, Marcus nodded. "All right. End of section 5, 997 words. Aisha's apartment was small but clean, filled with the kind of warmth that came from love rather than money. Crayon drawings covered the refrigerator. A worn couch faced a modest TV. Books lined a makeshift shelf made from cinder blocks and planks. Jamal looked up from his coloring book when they entered, his eyes going wide. "It's you, the motorcycle man." Marcus stopped in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. He'd faced down armed men without flinching. But this 8-year-old boy looking at him like he was a hero made something twist in his chest. "Hey, kid," he said quietly. "This is Marcus," Aisha said, touching Jamal's shoulder. "He's a friend. He made sure those bad men won't bother us anymore." "I knew you would." Jamal jumped up, his coloring forgotten. "You're like Captain Courage. You save people." "I'm not a hero, son." "Yes, you are," Jamal insisted. "You saved my mama." Twice. Mrs. Chun appeared from the hallway, her white eyebrows raised at the sight of the imposing biker in the small apartment. Aisha gave her a reassuring smile. "Thank you so much for watching him, Mrs. Chun. I've got it from here." After the elderly woman left, Aisha busied herself in the kitchen, pulling out her only coffee maker. "It's not fancy, but it's hot," she said, her hands slightly shaking as she measured the grounds. Marcus stood awkwardly by the counter, aware of how much space he took up in the small room. Jamal had returned to his coloring, but kept glancing up at him with undisguised admiration. "Sit," Aisha said, gesturing to the kitchen table. "Please." They sat across from each other, 2 chipped mugs between them, steam rising in the quiet apartment. From the living room came the soft sound of Jamal's humming and the scratch of crayons on paper. "I don't know where to start," Aisha said finally, wrapping her hands around her mug. "You keep showing up when I need help. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. But you've risked yourself twice now for a stranger." "You're not a stranger," Marcus said before he could stop himself. Aisha looked up, confusion in her eyes. He should stop, should drink his coffee and leave and let her rebuild her life without him complicating it. But sitting here in the home, Darius Johnson had never gotten to return to, watching the widow Darius had left behind struggle to stay afloat, Marcus couldn't keep lying. "Tell me about your husband," he said quietly. "Not the soldier, the man." Aisha's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. Darius, he was sunshine. That's the only way I can describe him. He made everything lighter just by being in the room. He'd dance with me in the kitchen while dinner was cooking. He'd sing Jamal to sleep. Terribly off-key, but Jamal loved it. She laughed softly, wiping her eyes. He couldn't fix anything to save his life. We had a leaky faucet for 6 months, because he insisted he could handle it. Finally called a plumber, and Darius stood there taking notes like he was in a master class. Marcus found himself smiling despite the weight in his chest. He was so proud when he enlisted. Aisha continued, her voice growing softer. Said he wanted to make a difference. Wanted Jamal to grow up in a world where good people stood up for what was right. She stared into her coffee. He was stationed in Kandahar, then Helmand province. He'd call when he could. Tell me about the guys in his unit, how they had each other's backs. He was a good soldier, Marcus said. The men trusted him. Did you serve with him? You said you knew of him, but Aisha leaned forward. There's something you're not telling me. I can feel it. Marcus's jaw tightened. This was it. The moment where everything changed. July 2016, he said quietly. Helmand province convoy hit by an IED on Route 611. Aisha's face went pale. That's when he died. Not immediately. Marcus forced the words out. The lead vehicle took the blast. Humvee flipped, caught fire. I was trapped inside. His hands gripped the coffee mug, leg pinned under metal, flames spreading. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, thought I was dead. Aisha's hand moved to her mouth. Then someone was there. Marcus continued, his voice rough with memory, pulling at the wreckage with his bare hands, screaming that he had me, that I wasn't dying that day. He dragged me out. I don't know how. I was 220, gear and all, but he got me clear just before the fuel tank exploded. Tears were streaming down Aisha's face. Now he stayed with me, Marcus said, kept pressure on my wounds, talked to me, made me promise I'd survive. That I'd go home and live a good life, because that's what men like us were supposed to do. He looked up, meeting Aisha's eyes. His name was Sergeant Darius Johnson, and he saved my life. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Jamal had stopped coloring, sensing something important happening in the kitchen. You, Aisha whispered. Darius saved you. Yes, and you've been... She struggled for words. All this time, you knew who I was. Not at first. Not until I saw his photo in your wallet. Marcus's voice cracked. I should have told you. Should have said something that night at the diner. But I didn't know how. How do you tell a woman that her husband saved your worthless life and you live while he died? How do you stop? Aisha stood up, walked around the table, and did something Marcus didn't expect. She hugged him. It was fierce and sudden, her arms wrapping around his shoulders, her face buried in his vest. She was crying. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for living. Thank you for not wasting the life he gave you. Thank you for honoring him by being here, by protecting his family. Marcus sat frozen, his throat tight, unable to remember the last time someone had touched him with kindness instead of violence. He would have liked you, Aisha said, pulling back to look at him. Darius always said the men worth saving were the ones who'd pay it forward. And that's what you've been doing, isn't it? Saving people because he saved you. Marcus couldn't speak, could only nod. Aisha sat back down, wiping her eyes. He's gone, but pieces of him are still here, in you and everyone he touched. She reached across the table and took his hand, scarred, calloused, covered in old tattoos. I'm glad you're alive, Marcus. I'm glad my husband's last act gave the world more time with you. In the living room, Jamal had started, humming again. Outside, the city moved on, uncaring. But in this small kitchen with cheap coffee and chipped mugs, grief finally met gratitude. And for the first time in 6 years, neither felt quite so heavy. End of section 6, 1,000 words. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in his apartment above the Iron Saints clubhouse, staring at an old photograph he kept hidden in a drawer for years, the only one he had from Afghanistan. A group shot of his unit taken 3 days before the convoy attack. Darius Johnson stood in the back row, grinning, arm around a buddy's shoulder. By 6 a.m., Marcus was on his bike, riding through the empty streets of Pine Ridge as dawn broke humid and gold over the pines. He pulled into the parking lot of Ray's diner, just as Ray Thompson was unlocking the front door. The old man froze when he saw the massive biker approaching. We're not open yet, Ray said, his voice nervous. I'm not here for breakfast. Marcus stopped a few feet away. Who owns this place? You or corporate? Ray's eyes darted to his truck, calculating whether he could make it. It's a franchise. Thompson Restaurant Group out of Atlanta. Why? I need their address. Listen, if this is about Aisha, I had every right to... Marcus repeated his voice, flat as winter steel. Ray's hand shook as he pulled out his phone, typing quickly. It's 312 Peachtree Center, Atlanta, 5th floor, but you can't just... Marcus was already walking back to his bike. He called Silver. Get the crew. We're going to Atlanta. Bring the money from the poker run. How much money are we talking, boss? All of it. Thompson Restaurant Group occupied a sleek office building overlooking the Chattahoochee River. Marcus walked through the glass doors at 9:15 a.m., his boots loud on the marble floor. The receptionist's smile died when she saw him. I'm here to see whoever owns Ray's Diner in Pine Ridge. Do you have an appointment? No. Then I'm afraid... Marcus pulled a thick envelope from his jacket and dropped it on her desk. It was stuffed with $100 bills. Tell them someone's here to make a cash offer. They'll want to take this meeting. The receptionist stared at the money, her professional mask slipping. Let me call Mr. Thompson. 5 minutes later, Marcus sat across from Gerald Thompson, a thin man in his 50s with wire-rim glasses and a nervous habit of tapping his pen. "Mr. Webb, is it? My receptionist said you wanted to discuss Ray's Diner." Marcus pulled out a larger envelope, this one bulging with more cash than most people saw in a year. He dropped it on Thompson's polished desk with a heavy thud. How much to buy it? The building? The land? The business? Everything. Thompson's eyes widened. He opened the envelope, flipped through the stacks of bills, and swallowed hard. This is $40,000. That's the down payment. I've got another $110 in cash. Full asking price $150 total. No negotiation, no inspection period. Deal closes today. Today? That's impossible. There are procedures, legal reviews. Marcus leaned forward, and something in his eyes made Thompson's words die. A woman worked in that diner for 3 years. Never missed a shift, never complained. Her husband died serving this country in Afghanistan, saving men like me. She raised her son alone, worked herself to exhaustion, and your franchise owner fired her because she was harassed by drunk customers. I don't see what that has to... That place took a hero's wife and made her feel small. Marcus's voice was quiet, but carried the weight of judgment. Made her feel worthless. So now I'm buying it, and I'm giving it back to her, the way it should have been from the start. Thompson looked at the money, then at Marcus, then back at the money. "Mr. Webb, I appreciate the sentiment, but you know who I am?" Marcus asked. "I know. Iron Saints MC. We operate across 3 states. We know people, lawyers, judges, construction crews, suppliers. We can make things happen fast, or we can make them happen slow and complicated." Marcus's voice never rose, never threatened directly. He didn't have to. "I'm offering you a clean, fast cash sale for a diner that's losing money because of bad press. Take the deal." Thompson's pen tapped faster. His eyes darted to the money again. Finally, he reached for his phone. "Let me call my attorney." By 2 p.m., the papers were signed. By 3 p.m., Marcus had the keys. The Iron Saints descended on Ray's Diner like a force of nature. Silver arrived with 3 trucks full of supplies: paint, lumber, new light fixtures, cleaning supplies. 2 other members, Bear and Clutch, brought power tools, and a crew of guys who owed the club favors. Even some of the old ladies, the bikers' wives and girlfriends, showed up with mops and determination. They worked through the night. Out went the cracked vinyl booths and the flickering neon sign. The walls got fresh paint, warm cream instead of dingy yellow. The broken windows were replaced. The kitchen got a deep clean. New equipment where the old stuff had given up. The bathroom was gutted and rebuilt. Marcus worked alongside them, sanding, painting, hauling trash. His hands, used to violence, learned the rhythm of creation. Every nail he hammered, every board he measured felt like repayment on a debt 6 years overdue. By dawn, they were hanging the new sign. It was custom-made, professional quality with warm, golden lights. Darius's Diner, open 24 hours. Marcus stood in the parking lot as the sun rose, staring up at it. Silver came to stand beside him. Paint splattered across her silver hair. "You did good, boss." "Not yet," Marcus said. "Not until I give her the keys. You think she'll take it? That's a lot for someone to accept." Marcus pulled out the photograph from Afghanistan, looking at Darius Johnson's smile. "Her husband gave me my life. Least I can do is give her a way to live hers." Inside the diner looked reborn. New tables, comfortable chairs, a counter that gleamed. The walls held framed photos, not random decorations, but something Marcus had spent hours putting together. Pictures of soldiers, of service members, of sacrifice. And in the center, in a place of honor behind the counter, a photograph of Sergeant Darius Johnson in his dress uniform, smiling that sunshine smile. Below it, a simple plaque. In memory of SGT Darius Johnson, U.S. Army, a hero who saved lives. Marcus locked the door behind him as his crew packed up. The sun was fully up now, painting the pines gold. "Let's go get her," he said. End of section 7, 1,000 words. Aisha woke to the sound of engines. At first, she thought she was dreaming. That low, familiar rumble that had twice now preceded salvation. But when she looked out her bedroom window, her breath caught. The parking lot was full of motorcycles, chrome gleaming in the early dawn light. The Iron Saints stood beside their bikes, quiet and waiting. And at the front, looking up at her window, was Marcus. She threw on jeans and a sweater, her heart racing. Jamal was still asleep, but she woke him gently. "Baby, get dressed. Something's happening." "Is it the motorcycle man?" Jamal asked, rubbing his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. It's Marcus." They hurried downstairs. The humid morning air bit at Aisha's face as she stepped out, Jamal clutching her hand. Marcus walked forward, and she noticed he looked different. Tired but lighter somehow, like he'd put down a heavy burden. "What's going on?" Aisha asked. "It's 6 in the morning. Need you to come with us?" Marcus said. "Both of you." "Where?" "It's better if I show you." Something in his voice made Aisha trust him. She'd learned that much. When Marcus Webb showed up, it meant something important. She nodded, and he led them to his bike. Jamal climbed on behind Marcus with the confidence of a boy who'd discovered his hero was real. And Aisha rode with Silver, her arms wrapped around the older woman's waist. They rode through empty streets, the town still sleeping. Aisha recognized the route. They were heading toward Main Street, toward the diner district. Her stomach tightened. Why were they going there? Then she saw it. Ray's diner was gone. In its place stood something transformed, something beautiful. New paint, new windows, new everything, and above it all, glowing warm in the dawn light, a sign that made Aisha's heart stop. Darius's diner, open 24 hours. "Oh my God," she whispered. The bikes pulled into the parking lot. Aisha climbed off, her legs shaking, her eyes locked on that sign. Darius's name, her husband's name, glowing like a promise kept. "What did you do?" she asked, turning to Marcus. He didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a key. Silver knew attached to a small leather keychain stamped with the diner's name. "Marcus, I don't understand." "I bought it," he said quietly. "Yesterday. Paid cash. Had the crew work through the night to fix it up." He held out the key. "It's yours now. The building, the business, everything." Aisha stared at the key like it might disappear. "I can't. That's impossible. Places like this cost." "Don't worry about cost." Marcus stepped closer, pressing the key into her hand. "Your husband saved my life in Afghanistan. Pulled me from a burning vehicle when he could have saved himself. Stayed with me when he should have run. He gave me a future I didn't deserve." His voice roughened. "And then the world took everything from you. Made you work yourself to exhaustion. Made you feel small and alone and worthless. That's not right. That's not what Darius Johnson died for." Tears streamed down Aisha's face. "You bought me a diner. I bought back your dignity," Marcus said. "Bought you a way to stand on your own feet. Bought you a place where nobody gets to make you feel less than what you are. A hero's wife who deserves every bit of honor he earned." He looked down at Jamal, who was staring up at him with wide, wondering eyes. Marcus's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "My turn to serve someone who saved me first." Aisha shook her head, speechless, clutching the key so hard it left an impression in her palm. Marcus put his hand over hers. gentle despite its scars. Don't thank me. Thank the man who taught me how to stand for something again. Thank the man who showed me that good people still exist and they're worth protecting. He paused. He's the reason I'm still here. This is the reason he should still be here, too. Mama's crying again, Jamal said softly. But happy crying this time, right? Aisha laughed through her tears, pulling her son close. Yes, baby. Very happy crying. Then Jamal did something no one expected. He walked up to Marcus and wrapped his small arms around the big man's leg, squeezing tight. Thank you for taking care of us. My daddy would like you. I know he would. Marcus's face cracked, emotion breaking through that granite exterior. He crouched down, looking Jamal in the eyes. Your daddy was the bravest man I ever knew. You grow up like him. You'll make this world better just by being in it. Aisha wiped her tears and smiled, really smiled for the first time in years, the kind of smile that reached her eyes, that lit up her whole face, that looked like hope reborn. Can we see inside? She asked. Marcus nodded and led them to the door. When he opened it, Aisha gasped. The place was beautiful, warm, clean, welcoming. And there, behind the counter in a place of honor, was Darius's photograph in his uniform, smiling that sunshine smile that had once made her fall in love. She walked to it, touching the glass with trembling fingers. You remembered him. He's why any of this matters, Marcus said. They stood there for a moment, the three of them in the diner that bore a hero's name. Then Marcus checked his watch. We should go. You've got a business to run, and I've got a crew waiting. Outside, the Iron Saints had already mounted their bikes. Marcus paused at the door, looking back at Aisha one last time. She stood at the counter, Jamal beside her, both of them bathed in the warm light of their new beginning. Ride safe, she called. Marcus nodded. Then he climbed on his bike, kicked it to life, and led his crew out of the parking lot. They rode down the highway, sunlight breaking over the pines, glinting off chrome and steel. Behind them, Darius's diner glowed warm and bright, a beacon of redemption, a promise kept, a hero honored. And for the first time since Afghanistan, Marcus Webb felt like he'd finally paid back the debt that had kept him alive.